was really interesting to see that side of it, and it was a very different side of it because from my background, I studied journalism at DCU. I pretty much have done everything online, digital marketing, design, SEO. I still work with a multinational company here in Cork doing online content. One of the first companies I actually got work experience with and stayed on and worked with was Setanta Sports back when nobody knew who they were. And we used to use technology, and you'll all laugh, but you remember the days of getting SMS text for goal alerts. You know, you'd sign up to your package of Liverpool and Man United or Leeds, and United was by far, it was 3 or 4 times the size of every other club. And it was just literally a little goal flash every time there was a goal, send out the teams full times. And I was laughing because technology has come so far. We developed a video pilot, and this will tell you how much technology has changed with sport. That involved, we recorded it perfectly legally, I'm sure, off Sky Sports. We got Fred Cogley in to do commentary, where he did a voiceover. We did a little clip, and then we threw it up on mobile. But the whole process used to take about an hour. So if Leinster was Munster, the provinces, scored a try, it would take us 30 to 45 minutes to actually get that little clip with Fred commentating on it up online onto your mobile. And when you think of today, you're in the stadium practically doing this all the time, and it's straight up. And even before we saw Colin Healy's goal on Soccer Republic the other night, we had it all over YouTube, we had it on Vine, Twitter, Facebook, the whole lot, before they even knew about it, and the footage came out, the official footage came out 3 days later. So technology has come an awful long way, and it has a really niche and very close interest, I think, all the time with sport, because sport absolutely drives this country in particular, but lots of countries in particular. And the example I always use is when the bombings happened in London, the terrorist attacks in London that time. We all had friends in London, and yet we had to sat there and we still had to write up the team news for the Premier League the following day while all of this was going on in the city, maybe an hour away from us. All of us had friends and family, and yet I remember sitting there going, Stephen Gerrard is likely to miss Liverpool's game tomorrow, you know, to send out an update. And sport is worth an awful lot of money to the media. It is worth an awful lot of money to the sporting organisations involved. I moved back to Cork in 2010, and I was asked to become part of the Cork City Football Club board at that time. For anybody who's not quite familiar with the football club, we've been fan-owned since 2010. After years of financial difficulties, examinership, High Court visits, having no money, the club, I would say, is relatively stable today, and definitely as stable as it has been in an awful long time. And a lot of that has come from the work of volunteers, and particularly a lot of hard work by our chief executive and board. You serve a 3-year term on the board, and then they allow you to take a little bit off, and then they drag you back into something else, because we're all volunteers. All this Cork City Football Club stuff was voluntary. When I came onto the board, because of the background that I had, I started to look towards the social media and online offerings that we had. And what was really interesting was around that time, it was about 2010, we had about just over 300 people followed us on Facebook at that stage. And 4 years later, it's 22,500. And that's how far the club has come. And what we tried to do, and it's very difficult, the kind of initial feeling with social media was just bombard people, tell them what you wanted them to know. So there's a game on Friday, there's a fundraising Saturday, just people were bombarded with information. And what we said to ourselves is, look, people don't want one stream of, I'm going to say, commercial abuse coming straight at them. They actually want to know, especially with a football club, they want to know about the players. They want to know what's going on in the background. They want to see the players train. They want to see what football boots they're wearing. They want to see the lads. It doesn't matter who's running the football club to an awful lot of people. They want to see the football side of the house. A lot of the other stuff doesn't really matter. There is an excellent presentation if you ever get to look at it, and it's called "The Nudge Is Mightier Than the Sword." And this is the approach we decided to take. So instead of throwing constant bombardment advertisement at people, we tried to actually engage them by putting not just your news feed saying the match is on Friday up, but more interesting things, behind the scenes footage, going, look at the big crowd that's coming along, creating demand on the basis that, oh, we're sold out of tickets here, we're filling it up again. And the idea is nudging people and asking them to become involved in something, as opposed to, we really need your money, please come. It's a very different approach, and it's worked really well for us. Today, as I was saying, there's 22,500 likes on Facebook. What we try and do is not have all that, come to our games, please give us money. We actually genuinely try and make an effort to get the players. If the players will do something, everybody else will follow. We have a really good selfie competition running at the moment. Nobody entered until we asked the players to do it. Put a few of those pictures up and suddenly you have an interest. Similarly on Twitter, the Cork City is actually the biggest League of Ireland club on Twitter, which is a great, about 14,000 followers at the moment. And when you combine the two figures, Cork City is actually the second largest League of Ireland football club on social media channels when you include all of them in. The club that's ahead is Shamrock Rovers, and where they got that huge big spike was when they went into the European competitions about 2 or 3 years ago, when they ended up playing Spurs in the Europa League. Huge awareness was created to them at that stage, and they did a really good job of actually capturing, you know, as we would say it, you know, the people who don't go along to League of Ireland games on a regular basis. But the biggest thing, what we say is, what are you going to do with all of this engagement? It's great. 22,500 people like the club on Facebook, so what? One of the original people involved in the football club said, oh, that's a perfect way to make money. If that's the attitude you take to social media, you won't actually succeed, because people are not suckers. What we did was try to focus on a couple of things. It seems very simple, even when we say it now, but actually social media has replaced phone and email as a channel of communication with the football club. So people don't ring anymore, they don't send emails anymore unless it's private. They'll actually pop onto Twitter or Facebook and ask the question there. And believe you me, they won't check if the answer is there already, they will just ask you. Because there was one summer 2 years ago when I spent the morning of the West Ham friendly game just literally at my computer going, there are tickets still available. Yes, there are tickets still available. Hi Bob, there are tickets still available. And the whole way down, and what you don't want to try and do is be an automated machine. So you try and change every single one. So you put the name in there because it makes it seem personal, and suddenly Cork City Football Club are talking to you. And actually 2 West Ham fans told us our social media was better than West Ham. We've got 3 professionals looking after it and not a team of volunteers. Very, very simple. Another really, really great example of what we can do with that. If you're familiar with Twitter, you can listen. Listening means putting in a search term in the search box, so you can search for Cork City. And now we do get lots of people giving out about the council here. But what we also do get is random people who haven't made contact with the club going, oh, I'm actually visiting from Ireland, should I go see a Cork City game, or should I wait till I go to Dublin and see St. Pat's? We can see that and go, why don't you come to Cork City, because we'll get you to meet the mascot and we'll bring you in and show you all around. And that's a really simple way of just actually engaging with people. And what it also does is it shows our supporters that we're doing this, that we're getting out there, and that we're trying to engage meaningfully with people, because we want people to come and enjoy the games. We don't necessarily want, you know, we don't want to kind of sell them a pup, for want of a better phrase, if that makes sense. But what's been really interesting about social media in particular, and it goes back to what David was saying, is the importance of data. When we came in 2010, obviously the club had lost, you know, had been through a couple of very difficult years, and had lost an awful lot of its databases, information about who comes to the games, what our typical demographics are like. We had sponsors and match night partners coming into the football club going, how many women turn up to Turner's Cross on a Friday night? And we're kind of like, we don't know, you know. We didn't know the very basics. How many of your supporters are based here in Cork, and how many of them are based in the county? How many are based further afield? How many are based outside of Ireland? All this is really important information to the people you're trying to get involved, be it match night partners, be it sponsors, be it just charity partners, or how we get, you know, if your online shop, you know, unfortunately because of the economic circumstances, more and more Cork City fans are actually abroad. So we need to try and cater for people who are overseas and get stuff out to overseas people. But we had no idea. We had no processes in place. We had no databases in place. So we had to start rebuilding all of that. So at every point of contact now, we try and get information about people, and not in a sinister way as that sounds, but what you do is you literally start, if you run a competition, track how well it does. So every single competition that you run, social media or otherwise, you can start to very quickly realise what people respond to and what they don't. If you put up a fundraiser advertising, unless it's something cool to do with players, you're going to get no response. However, if you throw up a picture of the players doing something silly, you get a response. If you put up video, you get a response. So you start to learn what the people coming into your football club like, what they want to see, what they respond to. So here's the lesson. If you want them to come and support the fundraiser that they don't care about, you put up video. You put something that'll catch their attention, that you know their attention. And it goes back to data. You just need to start collecting. We now have a database for all the members that own a share in the football club. Something as simple as asking them what their skills are, what they do for real life, gives us a really big insight. So the next time we need a professional of some sort, we have a database there. Do we have any members who can help us out with this? It's very, very simple stuff. It all starts with figures. It all starts with keeping a track of them. And, you know, you start to see trends and patterns emerging fairly quickly. There's a couple of things I would add just as considerations when it comes to sport and technology. I've worked in my last company was a web development company, and it was amazing how many people came in looking for beautiful websites that did everything but didn't want to spend the money on it. It's a very, very common complaint. Social media, you know, digital media, SEO, having a good website, it doesn't come without resources. And now resources can be financial in investment terms, or it can be voluntary, but it's someone's time and skills. And it's really important to realise that generally when it comes to technology, you do get what you get what you pay for. So if you go to a reputable company, you know, you deal with professionals, you go that whole hog and you're very planned about it, you'll actually get back what you put into it. If you want to do things on a budget, you'll be doing things on a budget. And it's fair to say for the first 3 or 4 years, even up to this season, Cork City's marketing department was limited to online activity, digital marketing, social media primarily. We had a couple of posters in local newspapers. People printed off posters up and around the city. For the first year this year, we actually have a coordinated ground marketing campaign, if I could make that. You might have seen the billboards that have been up around the city this year. We've made a concerted effort to be more open with the media, organising regular press conferences, getting interviews out there, making the players more public and appealable. And that has all cost money this year, but what it has been done, it was built on the base, a really strong social media base, and the social media has benefited from it, and it works in tangent with the marketing. So, you know, technology and sport, it works well together. It has huge benefits, but there's also considerations in the resources side as well. Very rarely will you get something good if you don't have good people involved. Investment does generally allow for good people to be involved. You get, you know, just to go back to that, you get what you pay for, you know, ultimately. There's probably a couple of statistics that I'll finish up with if there's any questions after that then, because I know I've touched across a lot. When you mentioned the Swansea, when you were doing your Premier League owners, Swansea actually are 1/5 owned by this supporters trust as well. And in a conversation with them about 18 months ago, we were discussing their first season in the Premier League actually, and how they, quote, they went and recruited an accountant, and the quote was because there were so many zeros. It was a big, huge learning curve for them. Cork City Football Club has a turnover in excess of €1 million these days, and that's nothing compared to some of the lower League 1, League 2 football clubs. We have an awful lot to learn in terms of actually running a fans-owned community football club. We don't have the sugar daddies with the big, long wealth fortunes going up. We're down with the Norwiches, or perhaps even lower. But what we do know is that roughly, and you know, stats, whatever your playing budget is and wherever you rank with your playing budget is most likely where you're going to finish at the end of the season. For that reason, it's really impressive that Cork City are second, because we are nowhere near second in the wage. We're actually the bottom half of the table in terms of wages in the League of Ireland right now. So you can buck the trends. You can actually, you know, cause those statistics to turn on head. There are exceptions. The problem with what probably David and Robbie would say is that generally you don't tend to buck trends all the time. There's ups and downs and whatever. But the Swansea lads that year had won the Fair Play award. You get the lowest yellow cards. Their financial prize money for the Fair Play award was higher than all of the League of Ireland prize money. Yeah, and that's just a tiny bit of perspective. Another one that I like to say as well is the total prize money again for the League of Ireland year in, year out is half what Dublin GA get from their main sponsor. Half. And that's all of the league prize money. What I suppose flips that around, and what we're trying to do at Cork City is do things differently. And where football went from community to the commercial, we're trying to bring it back to the community. We don't have a sugar daddy, we don't have a big shareholder. We're owned by 400 people around the city, and it's always open to more. City and county actually, and Dublin. And then there's a little batch of people in New York for some reason. They all live around the same neighbourhood, so I'd say there's somebody out canvassing there. But sport and technology, there's also a balance to be had, because football is very much a community sport, and yet as we see, the Premier League is pretty much a battle of who has the biggest wage budget, who's the biggest owner. And it's time it comes back a little bit from there. Sorry about my socialist rant at the end, but that's pretty much me. Does anyone have any questions?
Sure. Quick question. Question about rivals. Who is Cork City's biggest rival? And second of all, I mean, there were previously 2 clubs in Cork. Yeah. And if there was another, might that help? Or would would that be a problem? Because there are loads of cases in business as well as in things where actually rivalry, really helps.
My dad is from Derrynane Road and Turner's Cross, so he could talk about the rivalry going back way back when. I'm not old enough to remember the rivalry. I'm not old enough to remember more than one club in the city. It's difficult, because if you look at the League of Ireland, we call it the M50 League for like the Premier Division. There's so many clubs based in and around, and I think what the FAI would love to see are the likes. You have genuine football clubs who are there with a history and a heritage, and they're sort of saying, oh, would you not just kind of get together there? And you're like, that doesn't really work. You can't really franchise. I sometimes think rivalry would be good if Limerick were a bit stronger. You could certainly see a bit of rivalry there. It's definitely, their claims on being the biggest club in Munster, not a chance. And same for Waterford, lads, sorry.
You won't see us for a while.
But even, I suppose from what Cork City has been through in the last, there was an extremely traumatic 2 years there. And there was one day we thought the club was gone completely because it was out of our hands. It's changed slightly. We can be rivals on the pitch, but off the pitch we really have to start working together. And thankfully, I think the clubs in the league and the fans in the league are starting to realise that we can actually, do not get me wrong, I absolutely want us to thump everybody in the League of Ireland, but if we don't start working with them off the pitch, there's a very good economist, John Beach, if you've heard of him. He makes the argument that you can have a sustainable football club, but it has to function in a sustainable league, and the league has to function in a sustainable game. And now there's an awful lot of things that I think people would agree that are not quite right with football as a game right now. And anyone familiar with the League of Ireland, there's an awful lot that's not ideal about the League of Ireland. The Premier League is built on its TV rights. League of Ireland clubs get no TV money. It's rolled into your prize money, which, as discussed, is not earth-shattering. And then within an unsustainable game and an unsustainable league, you're expected to run a sustainable football club. So there's a balance to be had. We need to get more like the business community, because no business would run itself without knowing its customers, without knowing why people are not coming to them, without knowing some basic demographics, age groups, how many men, how many women, can we get kids in the door. Women are the big spenders, generally speaking, they get to decide. So what do women think of Turner's Cross? If we actually take on more of a business mentality, the club would benefit from that. However, football isn't a business, so it's a bit of a balance. To answer your question, I'm not sure. Like, I think a stronger club, 2 or 3 stronger clubs in Munster is what we need. We need the league to be an All-Ireland league as opposed to M50 and the rest of us, which is what it turns into really, because no matter what they say about Dublin rivalries, the amount of travelling that Derry ourselves and Sligo Rovers have to do, and Limerick, it's huge. It's a huge, huge challenge to overcome.
The economic theory, this colleague of ours actually doing work on it yesterday, is that clusters actually can drive performance of both clubs. Now, he's got data from the English Premier League, and he's showing that there is a correlation between clubs that are located close to each other and their performance, so that if you get and perform well close to another club that is also performing well, there's a competitive, there's a rivalry there that it turns into a virtuous circle almost, which comes from economic theory, and that if businesses are located together and if there is a cluster, there's a spillover of knowledge. Yeah. So I don't see what it's impacting.
I do. I come from tech startup background, and we always say that tech startups, even if you're two of you are doing exactly the same thing, you're not really competing with each other. You're competing with indifference. That's really what it is. And very often, I mean, I have telephoned newspapers to say, why didn't you do a story on our competitor? Because it all helps, you know. Yeah. And again, indifference and the idea of that it builds is really what you're trying to get. Like the idea that there's something there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
How do you actually, as a club, balance the success of the club versus you're saying that the wage bill is in the lower half of the thing? Do you think we
have rows every week?
Community helps. The sense of community helps.
Absolutely.
Selfies.
Yeah. No. You know, I think what struck a lot of us when Cork City was owned by, not to quote Harry Potter, but he who shall not be named, the previous owner, when it came close to going out of business, there was an RT report around the city, and they were going, Cork City were going out of business, isn't it terrible? And everyone was like, oh, it's awful, it's terrible. And you were looking at every single person going, I've never seen them, I've never seen them, I've never seen them. There was, you know, when you say a football club is struggling, people are awful sad about it, but are they out on the cross on a Friday night? Probably not. What we have tried to do since taking over, and we have an awful lot of work to do, is to try and actually be very genuine about those community links. And instead of viewing a school visit as a chance to, you know, bring people in the gate, actually using a school visit to do some training and promotion and health awareness, and taking a very different approach to it, in the hope, if you get them young, if you actually get them involved in the sport, if you encourage them to play football, if you say come along if you'd like to the game, but actually just to be more genuine about those community links, they're starting to reap real rewards, because for the first time, I think in a long time, we have a main shirt sponsor, Clonakilty Black Pudding, based locally here in Cork, but they've been fantastic. They've been really encouraged by what we're trying to do, but they've actually been quite to the point encouraged where they're actually being part of our community activities now. We have a charity partner. The first year we went looking for a charity partner, everyone kind of looked at us and went, don't want it. This time we had a load of charities wanting to be involved, because it was actually about fundraising for the charity. It was raising their causes and their awareness. There was no, we're going to do a bag pack and take most of it and give you a tenner. We've just had to try and completely, you know, put it on heads what the ethos of the club was previously. But to go back to your actual thing, how do you balance success and finances? We don't have a big cash fund. We don't have a big owner that we can go, you know, we're a bit short there. We actually have to make sure we're going to have all the money to pay everybody, every bill and every player that we have this year. And it's only then that the extra gets spent. And it's not easy. In the current climate, it's been far from easy. But what we are seeing now is that the people coming on board with the football club, Soho are actually part of our one of our match night partners these days. They're not falling away anymore. They're actually staying involved. They might get involved in a different guise, but it's been very notable. We've tried to move away from the traditional sort of big alcoholic brands to actually bring it in and kind of go, right, we want to actually go back into the local community and to try and give something back, because at the end of the day, it shouldn't matter if it's us playing, like, it just matters that people are playing the game or involved, because people being involved and volunteering in the club is probably as important as getting kids to play the game, as in that involvement, that community side, that social side. It's huge. There's people involved with us today that, you know, probably didn't have a whole lot going on in their life, and now the club is really important to them because they can feel valued. They can actually go right up and be as involved as they want to be in the squad. You know, they can go out and clean the training ground. You can paint the place. You know, there's lots of things for people to do. And if there's one thing we've learnt, people love saying that they do something for their local football club. And it's trying to kind of bring that side of things through while going, what this year has been completely unexpected. We demanded improvement. We were thinking top 4, so to be pushing that little bit further is excellent. The biggest challenge we have now is just creating an expectation. As I was saying, our wage bill is not up there with the top clubs in this league. It will take many, many years before we close that gap. So even this run this year, fantastic as it is, it's going to be hard to maintain, never mind improve on. Do you know what's that?
Bearing that in mind, Niamh, in terms of the great achievement that the team is making right now, and even the crowds that you're generating for the cross, that's a great platform for next year. What are the key things that you can see that's going to allow you to do next year?
Well, me or the football club, because I got killed because I'm like, let's do community programs, and they're like, no, it's about the football. I think what has come together this year in particular, and it goes back to the social media and marketing as well. Last year, parts of it were really difficult, that it really didn't no matter what you did, what the team did, it was just a hard sell. There was just a couple of matches, there were so many late last minute goals that it actually just sucked the lifeblood out of you. It was just depressing, it was just horrendous. There was one late goal in the Setanta Cup where they scored deep into added time, and actually that meant they got an extra away goal. We went out of the competition entirely, we missed a home gate for the final. All told, probably 6-figure sum on like an added time injury goal, and those sort of things are devastating. In bringing in John Caulfield, and I don't know if he's just such a charismatic person to be around, and that is what's changed things. He has a level of expectation that he's what I call true Cork. He's like, but sure, why can't we do it? We're from Cork, like, do you know what I mean? And it absolutely
GA background.
it rubs. I love the fact that some of the Dublin clubs in particular just have their back up a little bit, because it shows he's getting under their skin. But what he has instilled, not only in the squad but in the supporters and in the staff around the place, was actually, if we don't push ourselves every little day, every little that bit further, well, where are we going to end up? John came in with a plan. He knew exactly what he had to do. I think he would admit himself that this season has gone particularly well, but he will expect an improvement year after. And what he's looking to do is have players involved in the club that want to be involved in the club. They're local. If they're not local, they want to be down here. They want to be playing. And I think the one thing that having to do so much travelling brings is the fact they are such a tight squad. There was one game last year where one of our players got involved in a bit of a scuffle, and there was a guy on loan went in to help him. This year I'm absolutely certain that if anyone got into a scuffle, it would be much more than that. And it's that sense. He's actually galvanised the city. People know him, people like him. He's a very genuine character, and I think he reflects what we're trying to do as a football club. So next year, I think hopefully we have an application in with Erasmus to do an awful lot of work to develop fan ownership in Ireland. On the pitch, I think John will ensure that we're definitely going to give any club a huge game.
Any last questions for you?
I've just one more. I know I asked a lot of questions.
Go on.
But how's summer soccer working out?
I don't think there's any going back. I think summer soccer, it's been what?
2003.
Yeah, I was like 10 years, nearly almost over 10 years. In terms of pitches, in terms of not freezing your rear end off in the Carlisle ground in December. I thought I was going to die of hypothermia once down there because it's right on the seafront. Just in terms of the players we have available, in terms of being able to not have your floodlights on for 3 or 4 months of the year, in terms of just being more family friendly, warmer weather, terms of the players. It just works for so many reasons. I think there were a couple of clubs kind of in the Midlands, definitely in big, well, if we say in areas that are less football centric, kind of were suggesting we should look at going back and be in line with the Premier League. I don't think it holds us back. We're stronger in Europe as well, is the other thing. We struggle a little bit to kind of match up league fixtures with friendlies, but myself, I don't think anybody wants to go see a Liverpool X11 anymore. They'll come and see Liverpool, but they don't want to see a reserve side of under 19 players, so I don't think that's a huge loss. I think it's been important for the league, and I think it lines us up with countries we need to be looking at up in Scandinavia and Sweden and Norway. They're the leagues we need to look at, not the Premier League. We're so far remote from the Premier League.
And their players come later into when they arrive in the Premier League, they have a higher success rate because they come later, and generally with their education and that kind of thing.
Well, the one guy that went across, perhaps Alan Brown from City's under-19 squad last year, went straight into Preston's 11 and is a regular with them now. Alan just is an exceptional talent, and if you have the right attitude and the skill, you can play League of Ireland here until you've all seen the papers recently. One of our other players has been linked to the move as well. It's never too late. It's better that they get an education, which is what we keep sending them to UCC, very, very reputable institute, telling them to have a backup plan. It's not a failure, but actually having a bit of respect for themselves and not to be thinking, if I don't go at 16, I'm a failure. If I don't go at 17, I'm even a bigger failure. Play football and let the rest take care of itself. Get an education, be part of a club that you mean something to. It's a bit of a different twist, we hope.
Just on that, did you do work on summer soccer?
Yeah, European performance is marginally better. Over the long run, it is. Obviously,
that's because Cork City haven't been in there for a few
effect is a big one. We didn't win a game last year in any competition, which is obviously, last year was a big blip, home or away. I think I'd agree with a lot what you said in the floodlights, the weather, all of that. I don't know if the European won't stack up as much, and from being a Waterford United fan, European football means nothing to me. So don't forget, like, over the course of 10 years, probably only 6 or 7 teams have played in Europe. There's another 15 or 16 won't play in Europe, won't get near it. So that is something to think about.
The big myth, to bust another myth, Europe does not make you a pile of money.
No, it costs an awful lot of money. I just think sometimes though, I'm not necessarily in favour of summer soccer. We start in the winter and we end in the winter.
Well, it seem that we play through 2 winters.
We seem to play through 2 winters, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, like, Brazil played Germany, the 7-1. Was it 7-1? Yeah. There was one game on the Sky Sports news app other than that in the whole world, and it was a League of Ireland game. Now, the Economist to me says, who the hell is going to go and watch that game?
I'm just going to
I don't think it was Cork City, by the way.
No, but a lot of the time it's fair to say clubs don't have an awful lot of say when they play.
Yeah, I know. I think this is an FAI
very
issue.
diplomatic.
But I just think that it's absolute crazy going head to head with, and sometimes I think we do that. We go head to head with like Waterford play on a Tuesday night sometimes, and the Champions League is on.
Yeah.
I think that's the big problem with League of Ireland, is that there's a substitute good there that is far superior to it. And it's a great book. Who wrote the book Who Stole Our Game?
Oh,
Dara.
It's a great book which traces the evolution of the League of Ireland and the very, very high attendances that they had in the 50s and 60s. And technology essentially displaced the product of League of Ireland soccer with a far superior product, the English Premier League.
Yeah.
And people generally substitute towards it when the costs are quite low. So that's the biggest challenge. But as you said, I don't think we're trying to compete or should mirror ourselves on the Premier League.
It's worth remembering though that there was at least one official marketing campaign for the league that was more or less saying it's not as bad as you think, as opposed to saying this is some of the good stuff that goes on, look what you're missing out on, you know.
I always feel a bad live match in a stadium is 10 times better than sitting down watching a match on TV.
Well, it's a bit like it's a bit like music, you know. Are you going to watch One Direction on Sky, or are you going to go and watch a live band in the bar down below? You know, it's exactly the same, totally different experience. But it's getting that across. It's getting that whole ethos across, get that whole experience across to the consumer. And you're doing that with social media right now, giving them snippets of the video, giving them snippets of all the stuff that's going on in the actual stadium. That's just drawing people in.
What you're missing versus going to Clancy's and watching on the big screen or whatever.
How you frame it is really important. So you often see clubs frame it as in your club is about to die, you know, or they're kind of like beggars, or your keys help your club. And
it's really
as a fan,
important
I think fans
fundraiser.
are almost like, whoa, you know, no one wants to be associated with those characteristics.
Negativity. I think you're doing a fabulous job, and I think from an Irish point of view, there would be nothing better if one club could break away. I know it wouldn't be good for competition, but amazingly, the League of Ireland is one of the most competitive leagues in the world. Like, look at the last 10 years, Dundalk, Drogheda, Cork, Shelbourne, Shamrock Rovers, they've all won the league, and yet people aren't interested. Right? And if we did a straw poll here, who'll win the Premier League next year, it'd probably be City or Chelsea.
That is...
Well, probably. Now, we could be wrong, but it probably will. But yet, even though we know the outcome already, and if you go back further, it was going to be United.
From the sports economic point of view, have you ever looked at the parental influence of a kid during his 5, 6, 7 years old? Like, my father didn't follow League of Ireland whatsoever, so like I was ingrained Man United fan, and literally to this day, I'm not going to lie, you know, I do keep an eye on Cork City because I went to college in Cork, but you know, still Premiership in United was just literally ingrained. So, like,
but you ask most League of Ireland fans, what's the connection, and it's family. Like, my dad is from Turner's Cross, that's why we went down when we were small. Very few people just go, actually I go to a League of Ireland game and off I go.
I suppose even on that, my dad's from Clonmel, you know, all he follows is United all his life, so we know
in school I had a Scunthorpe United bag. Figure that one out.
Very cool. If Cork could break away, or any club could break away, the whole league would benefit, because you look at other sports and often people aren't interested in competition. Darts has never been as popular, and Phil the Power dominates it. Horse racing had a boom a few years ago because Koivisto Star was running, and he used to win pretty much every race, but people watched it because they were almost associated with a winner.
But I'd give the example of Sounders as well. I got to go to a Sounders game and it was like watching football on steroids, because you were allowed to drink beer within sight of the pitch. So here was me with my beer vial going, ooh, I'm going mad. They gave you streamers to throw at the pitch, red carpet for the teams coming out, big national anthem with a big brass band. Anytime someone scored, there was flames came out of the goalposts. Anytime, like, you know, when Chad Marshall scored, so the guy in the announce would go Chad and the whole crowd would go Marshall. Like, I was just like, what is this?
Did you try that at the grass?
it died a death, because I was up in Tallaght for a League Cup game a couple of weeks ago, and your man was doing a bit of that on the Tanaway, and it just died. Like, it was just like, who is this? But as I said to the guys when I was talking about this, when I came back, there was groups of families, groups of women at the game, just huge bunches of people going to games together, because the Americans, whether we like it or not, with their statistics and with their show, they put people in seats, and that's what we need to look at. So when they're looking at the MSL and going, oh, it's into this wonderful league, yeah, it's probably not as good as they're trying to make out, but they do an awful lot of things that are very good. And one of the things Cork City has tried to do is look at other football clubs to see what they're doing, how can we learn from it. There's an awful lot of football clubs doing really good stuff from below conference, right, like the German clubs, they're just awesome, some of the stuff that they do. Whereas before, it was literally you in your little box with your football club, and we're not talking to anyone, we're not looking at anyone, we're just fine. And you wonder why they go out of business. You have to network. It has to be more towards your business, community approach. You have to start to think metrics, you have to think data, you have to think who are your customers. Now you do have to balance it, you can't go way over, but you need to network, you need to look at what other people are doing and learn from them and avoid their mistakes as well. So it's a lot. We have an awful lot to do with Cork City, and that's not being negative, I just see a lot of potential there.
So yeah, I think we're going to move on to the next speaker.
Yes, thank God.
And there's a game on Turner's Cross on Monday night, I do believe, against Bray.